name is Doug Sanderson. I was born in Hunter's Nursing Home in Swan River, May the 5th of 1943, to Tom and Holly Sanderson. Mom was alone at the time because Dad was in the Army. And then we left and lived in Dawson Bay for a little while, and we moved to Reedy Creek, which is nigh on to Kennesaw there at Manitoba House, when I was supposed to be in 4 months of age. And I've lived there the majority of my life, other than a little bit of time when I was out working and what have you. I was farming all my adult life. We moved there, and I haven't moved. We got a new house from the Métis Federation 23 years ago, which is about 300 yards from where I first lived. I worked for Cleason's Cartage for 3 years. I took a little stint up at Grand Rapids with Manitoba Hydro there. When I worked on that, it was Brown Root and McNamara that was doing that. I've been there all the time pretty well since. I started milking cows when I was 5 years old, and I did right up until they turned around and cut the cream shippers off. I got married in 1971. In 1973, the fall of 71, the oldest one was born. 23 months later, the girl was born, and that's where the problem started. She was a sickly child. We had 3 ambulance trips to Winnipeg. I had bought cattle, and then the price dropped to nothing. I had to take her to Winnipeg to the Children's Hospital at the Health Science Center, and she found out she was an asthmatic with known allergies. She was off and on, back and forth, sickly, and she was an early teenager, might have been 13 or something, when I took her into St. Rose Hospital, and it was taking a bad attack, and the doctors start walking back and forth and all that, and he come up to me and he said, "Mr. Sanderson, can you pray?" Well, I said, "I've been called worse than that, but I said I can try." He said, "This is no laughing matter. I can only do one more thing for your daughter, and it's all up to the man upstairs." I didn't have money for a telephone call. I was having a problem with our priest. He didn't want to talk to us anymore. So I phoned the pastor of another church, collect, and he accepted the call, and I told him what happened. And he started a prayer line going. About 20 minutes later, the doctor came back, and he said, "You must have pretty good pull." He said, "Your daughter is now out of danger." We hit a lot of trying times through that with children. The wife and I lost 3 little ones. We're blessed with 4. I think it's about 7 years ago that we were at an annual General Assembly, and in the hotel in the Best Western in Headingley, when it was about midnight, there was a phone call. Hilda answered the phone, and she said it was the wrong number. And I was going to the bathroom, and she said, the phone rang, and I said, "Are you going to answer that?" "No," she said, "there's someone at the door, and I'm not opening the door." And I said, "Okay." I just got to bed, and the phone rang again, and I picked it up, and it was our other boy, the oldest one of the 2 that's now the younger ones. And he spoke, and I said, "Who's speaking?" He said, "Doug, your son." "Okay," I said, "What is going on?" I said, "That you would phone me at midnight in a hotel in Winnipeg." "Well, Dad," he said, "I think you've lost a grandson tonight. Justin was killed," he said, "in a car accident." And he said he was pronounced dead at the scene at 10 minutes after 11. Well, we had raised that little boy from 3 years old. He always wanted to be at the house. And what a devastating night that was when he was there. He was only 2 days into 22nd year of his life. And it had to go through all that. We got our pension. We were never hungry. Grandma raised a lot of fowl. She put in a big garden. She milked cows. And we were never hungry at any time. We might have been a little low on stuff, But my uncle, the youngest boy, asked Dad if I could stay with the old people till he come back from the army. Well, I was still there till they both passed away. We had quite a time. I got what he would have had. That's pretty well the part of my life story. We had some hard times. Mom and Dad worked out different times. My two older brothers stayed with us. I remember 1950. It was Christmas and very exciting. Mom and Dad had been working in Winnipeg, I think at the hospital or something. And then the youngest girl had gotten married and she was home with a new husband. And we were so busy there, Christmas, getting ready, and they told us that we better get to bed or Santa Claus wouldn't come. So we put out the usually lunch, a little cake, and a glass of milk. Now, Santa Claus got that at all the houses he went to. No wonder he was chubby. Well, my aunt went to bed, and her husband was lying in there crying. And she told him, "It's Christmas, what is the matter?" He said, "The way your family are doing." You know, he said, when I was growing up, he said Christmas was the most hated time of the year. He said we never got an apple, an orange, a candy, or a peanut. He said that was Mom and Dad's time to drink with their friends. And if we got something to eat, we snitched it. If we didn't do that and got caught, we sure would have got something to remember. Well, the next morning, the turkey was done just like in the book. Golden brown vegetables. But 300 yards across the way where we live now, my aged great-grandfather was having a little bit of a go with St. Paul, St. Peter. Grandmother, when Grandma got everything ready that she could go down there, she went down and she went into him and she said, "Merry Christmas, Dad, how are you?" "Just here." And that's all. Well, she come back home. Grandfather was there. He'd been up with him half of the fall and all night looking after him. My dad was doing the chores, I guess, and he come in about 11 o'clock, 11:30, and he said, "Something must have happened down there." Dad's standing out on the platform. Well, he went down. Great-grandfather had passed away. Well, now, if that didn't throw a monkey wrench into the soup kettle, because they had to get busy and get all that done and for his burial. And grandmother said to the mom and my aunt, "You girls have dinner and feed the kids," she said. "Whenever we can get ready, we'll come and have dinner." Well, that wasn't really Christmas. Grandpa and Grandma wasn't there. But we survived that and quite a few others. And so that's about the part of my life that we get going. I know just before we got the new house, I owed about $9,000 of a mortgage. I'm forgetting the names and that now, but the fellow, he was from over at St. Laurent. They were all ready to put a house there, and he asked them if they could get property, put that, and she said no. Well, he said, we'll co-sign the loan that he's got and work it all in with her. And she told them that they didn't know if they were worth it. Well, then we were sitting there, and they bought a house. There was one east of Amaranth. They were going to sell it to me for $1 and fix it up with grant money. They got it all ready to be moved, and they come out from the reserve and burnt it on the weekend. So we had no house at all. Well, then they were ready to put up a new one, and I went to the Royal Bank in St. Rose-du-Lac, and I took out a loan there from them to pay off the other. Well, they paid it out, and I got a bill from the credit union for $300 and some odd penalty for paying out before it was matured. And I went in, nobody would talk to me. I told them that, read the agreement. I could pay it out at any time without penalty. Well, the next morning, I got a letter in the mail with an apology for what they done, with a check for $300 and some dollars, whatever the penalty was. Well, then that loans manager wouldn't talk to me for about 6 months, any time that I would see her. Finally, I met her one day on the street, and I said, "What is the matter? Life is too short." So then she started talking to me and everything. So I don't know what happened there. But anyway, we went in and whatever. Then Delmer, the youngest boy, started curling in at Alonza. Well, I would take him in, and then I would go into the seniors and play whist till he was finished. Well, then I asked my wife if she would go with me, and she didn't want to, and she got in there, and she liked it, so now it was go quite often. The way the COVID is, we haven't met, well, I think we've met twice since this started, the COVID started. Our attendance is very, very small because the majority of them, they're old-timers and they passed away. But I don't know, it's over 2 years since we had a game of cribbage. That pretty well brings me up to my present time.